podcast you've been looking for all along. Step into the world of urban exploration with guests from around the world. Welcome to No Tracers. And now that you've heard the musical stylings of my cat, welcome to No Tracers. Sorry, that was probably a little bit weird after the intro, but I wanted to keep it in. My cat is very excited to see me this morning, so I figured just let him purr into the microphone a few times. It'll be great. So I hope you guys enjoyed that little cat ASMR. Now we're going to get into the podcast. What's up, guys? Welcome to No Tracers. If you're new to the podcast, hit that subscribe button. If you are a veteran listener, thank you so much for coming back. This week, it's just me, no guest. Super excited to talk to you guys about some things I've been doing because, you know what? Sometimes I just want to talk by myself on my podcast, and that's what I'm going to do this week. So I hope you guys enjoy it. If you enjoy this episode at any point in time, if you could do me a huge favor and leave a rating and feedback, it helps the podcast grow, helps more people find us, and it kind of just validates us in the space. This is a very unique podcast. We are in a niche, and I feel like there wasn't a lot of podcasts about urban exploration out there, so I figured, why not make my own? So here is No Tracers. I hope you guys enjoy it. I do need to take a second to thank our partner, Liquid Death Water. If you've never heard of Liquid Death, well, you're probably not on social media enough because their marketing is amazing and they are all over the place. But in the case that you haven't heard of Liquid Death Water, don't worry. I've got an ad coming for you in 3, 2, 1. From the streams of the Austrian Alps comes a new kind of water. A water that is sure to raise you from your grave. If you're tired of buying cases of plastic water bottles that contain carcinogens and God knows what else, or if you're trying to lower your waste footprint, Liquid Death comes in beautifully rugged aluminum cans. Murder your thirst with a can of Liquid Death. Check the link in the description and use code JustTheLetterK at checkout for 10% off your order. Liquid Death. Murder your thirst. So if you would like a discount on Liquid Death Water, use code JustTheLetterK at checkout for 10% off, or you can hit the link in the description. It will take you directly to this site, and it will implement that code into your checkout box. So this week on the No Tracers podcast, I want to share with you guys some stories of a recent trip I took to Colorado to explore some abandoned places with my friend Urbex Offlimits. If you don't know who he is, check him out on Instagram. And he's also on YouTube at Urbex Offlimits. So if you guys want to check out his stuff and his perspective, please go do that. But we traveled to Colorado to explore a bunch of abandoned places. That was our sole purpose there, was to explore abandoned and capture some content because that's what we love to do. And during this time, this like quarantine time, it's kind of the perfect time to travel actually because there's not a whole lot of people at the airports, not a whole lot of people on flights, even though that is starting to change a little bit as people are going somewhat back to normal. But we decided to head out to Colorado for 2 days to explore abandoned stuff, and the first thing we explored was an abandoned strip club. And by the way, if you guys want to watch any of my content or see any of the blog posts, you can do so either on the JustTheLetterK YouTube channel, youtube.com/JustTheLetterK, or you can read the blogs that I am working on currently at notracers.com. At notracers.com, you can also pick up a copy of my urban exploration photography book, No Tracers, an Urban Explorer's Diary. If you guys want to get a copy of that, I'll include 2 signed photo prints for you as well, and I will sign your book and personalize it for you. But the blogs will be up on notracers.com as I finish them up, so you can join the mailing list over there, and I will send you an email whenever there's a new blog post up, so you guys stay up to date with all the content I'm working on. Like I said, links are down in the description. So we arrived in Colorado, and the first thing we explored, you know what? I want some music for this episode. Let's throw some music in here from Epidemic Sound. So the first thing we explored was an abandoned strip club called LT's. And here's a little bit of history behind it. This club has been open for a while, or had been open for a while, years in fact. And I recently spoke with Lisa Ann, who is a retired porn star, and she used to do celebrity dance spots all over the country, all over the world really, at different strip clubs and events. And so I spoke with her yesterday, in fact, about this abandoned strip club that we explored in Colorado, and she has actually danced there before. So it was kind of cool to get a little bit more of a history of that place. And what's super crazy is that there was a murder that took place in the beginning of 2019 at this abandoned, or at this strip club before it was abandoned. That's why it became abandoned. So there was a murder there, and after that, they kind of shut the club down. But before that murder, there were about 8 other incidences that are known about that Lisa informed me of. So it's just kind of crazy to hear about the history of these places and discover what went on there. So when we were in this place, first of all, before we even got in, there was a lady outside her house, and she was asking us like, oh, you guys have to show me the pictures after, like, be careful when you go in there, people live in there. So kind of looking out for us. We had like a little guardian angel. It kind of feels like looking out for us. But speaking of guardian angels, I want to do an episode on paranormal activity. So if any of you out there listening to this are explorers and you've had paranormal activity occurrences, I would love to talk to you on this podcast about that. So please hit me up at notracers.com. There should be a contact form on there. But going back to what I was saying, it's kind of crazy to hear about the history of these places. And when we went inside this place, it was trashed. It was completely trashed. There was stuff all over the place. Stiletto heels still there, G-strings, all kinds of stuff. You know, it was just nuts to see the inside of this place. And when we finally got the power turned on, we could see what this place was supposed to look like. It was kind of different in the dark, using headlamps and flashlights to see our way around inside the place. But when we got the lights turned on, we really got to see what it looked like. And it was pretty cool. You know, it was the second strip club I've ever been in. The first one was in Washington, D.C., one of the top strip clubs in the country, the Cloakroom. And I was working when I was there. So that time at the Cloakroom, I was filming Lisa Ann, actually, who I was talking about earlier. So I was filming her do a performance and meet the girls and do behind the scenes lifestyle content for her. And it was really cool. You know, it was my first time in a strip club there. And then the second time in a strip club, it was an abandoned strip club. So I kind of have an appreciation for strip clubs a little bit more, seeing one that is super thriving and seeing one that is completely abandoned. So it's just a huge juxtaposition for me. But yeah, the strip club we explored was super cool. If you guys want to see photos or videos, like I said, head to notracers.com or youtube.com/JustTheLetterK. And moving on, we explored 8 different places in a day and a half. So we crammed a bunch of stuff in. We didn't get inside everything, and that's the thing with urban exploring. You don't always get inside when you are trying to explore these places. Sometimes you just have to take photos of the outside. For example, we went to this elementary school that was abandoned, and there was no way inside, absolutely no possible way to get inside this place. Plus, it was in a neighborhood, so it was very, watched over by the neighborhood, and so there was no way we were going to, get inside this place. So we just stuck to seeing the outside and checking that out. I flew my drone around it. I only took drone photos of the place, actually. I didn't take any ground level photos because I felt like the drone captured the building better than I could from the ground. So I love traveling with my drone. I bring it everywhere I go. I am drone certified, so I can fly in most places commercially, which is nice. But if you want to buy a drone and start flying a drone, just make sure you know the laws and regulations. And the only way you're going to know the laws and regulations is if you study it and actually go for the examination process and get your license. So it's just worth it to have the license, especially if you want to film really cool stuff. So my advice to you guys would be to get drone certified if you do have a drone already and you want to fly it. And if you want to make money off of it, you should definitely do that. You should definitely get certified, because legally, if you are making money off of your drone, you have to get drone certified. But moving on from that, if you guys want to know more about freelancing and how to be a freelance drone pilot, head to my other podcast, Project Freelance, and you can hear stories from other guests about how they built their businesses. I talk to drone pilots and photographers all the time on that podcast. So if you guys need more information about that, definitely check out Project Freelance. So one of the other places we explored that we couldn't get into was an abandoned church. We tried to get in. It was impossible. We could have kind of shimmied up through a hole in the boards that it was boarded up with, but again, the church was in a neighborhood and it was under the watchful eye of one of the neighbors, so we didn't want to chance it, which, it makes exploring neighborhoods a little difficult when the neighbors are very nosy. And if you live near an abandoned place, you're probably very nosy about it. You don't want people in there. You don't want people to set it on fire or do reckless shit inside these abandoned places in your neighborhood. So you tend to keep an eye out on them. So it's definitely more difficult to explore neighborhood stuff. And that's kind of why I stay away from that, because I'm not trying to get caught. I'm not out here trying to get in trouble. I'm just out here trying to take photos of abandoned places and explore, because it is my passion and I love to do it. But I am curious about your opinions about exploring neighborhood stuff. Do you guys do that? Tweet me at @KAnagonio. I want to hear more about that. My Twitter's down in the description if you need it. Or you can DM me at no.tracers on Instagram. I would love to chat with you guys more, so that you can give me not only feedback on this podcast, but you guys can give me your input. So the next thing that we explored, or not the next thing, but we also explored an abandoned amusement park, and it wasn't actually abandoned. It's just shut because of COVID. But we explored, part of it is actually abandoned, like completely. There's just junk everywhere. There's a racetrack basically, and the racetrack is completely abandoned, grown over, and all that kind of stuff. But a majority of the park is still functional, and it was really cool to check it out. And we did end up getting not caught, but we ran into one of the staff members that was restocking toilet paper, and he was kind enough to tell us that if we wanted to explore the place, all we had to do was call. So if we want to go back and explore some more, we can just call them and they'll give us permission to go in and take photos even during COVID. So that's super cool. They were very, very nice and very generous, and it was very cool to run into such a kind-hearted staff member at an abandoned, well, not abandoned, but for us, an abandoned place, because there's nobody there except for a few staff members. But that was a really cool exploration. I'm working on the video for that one. It'll be up in a few days. Right now I'm focusing more on POV photography. So if you guys are into the POV photography trend, I would love for you to check out my content on youtube.com/JustTheLetterK. It is a lot of fun to put these videos together, and it takes a lot of my time. And so I hope you guys enjoy the content. We did get hit up by another explorer saying like, hey, this place isn't abandoned, right? And yes, we do indeed know that it is not abandoned. And I will be sure to mention that in the video as well as a disclaimer before we get started. But yeah, it was super cool to explore the amusement park. I love amusement parks and water parks. They're some of my favorite things to explore just because they're so big and there's a lot to capture. So that's always fun for me. And then we tried to explore an abandoned theater, but I wasn't comfortable going in during the day because it was guarded by, again, it was in a neighborhood, so it was guarded by the neighbors. But Urbex Offlimits got into the theater the next night after I left to go back home to California. So if you want to see his content from the theater, it's actually super cool. So if you want to see his content, go follow him on Instagram, Urbex_Offlimits. He's got some great content up there. He explores a ton of places. He knows all the spots. This guy's got like maps on maps on maps, and it's absolutely amazing to see all of his spots. And What else did we explore, man? It was such a fun time, and it was so jam-packed with abandoned stuff. We explored an abandoned bowling alley, which was really cool, but it was completely empty, so there wasn't much to see there. It was just complete darkness. We could see where, like, the main counter area where you pick up your shoes, that was still there. But other than that, the bowling lanes were completely stripped out of the place. They probably resold all the wood because the floor was concrete. So I'm sure they resold the wood to another bowling alley, which would be very smart on their part. We also explored an abandoned sugar mill that was shut down in, I believe, the 70s in 1977. This place was in the middle of nowhere. Well, I wouldn't say that. It wasn't in the middle of nowhere. It was pretty far outside of Denver, but we made the trek out there to go check it out, and we got in, and it was absolutely amazing. It was one of the biggest facilities I've explored. In multiple buildings, lots of cool stuff, lots of really cool graffiti. I actually film. I'm a musician as well, so I filmed a few videos for my music in this abandoned sugar mill, and one of those videos was a cover of a Bring Me the Horizon song called Obey. So if you guys are interested in metal music, and if you like Bring Me the Horizon, go check out my cover of Obey featuring Youngblood on the K the Screamer official YouTube channel. I will put a link in the description for the video if you guys just want to click on that and go check it out. But the sugar mill was super cool. There was this really awesome Darth Vader graffiti piece on one of the walls. There was a really cool piece in one of the furnaces of the mill. And then there was a really cool sequence of Pac-Man graffiti. So there was Pac-Man and the different ghosts of the different colors spray painted on the furnaces. So that was really cool to see those. I absolutely loved this place. And the last thing we explored while we were in Colorado was actually an abandoned military base that was completely underground, completely pitch black. It was like 50 degrees inside, freezing, absolutely freezing. It was like 93 on the surface. And when we got underground, deep underground, it was like in the 50s or 40s, like we could see our breath. And it was just astounding to see this place. It used to be a launch site for missiles, for intercontinental ballistic missiles. So to get to see this place that was decommissioned and shut down in the current state it's in, full of graffiti and just completely abandoned and isolated. It was so creepy inside. It was spooky. Not sure if it was haunted, but I mean, I don't know. We did feel some creepy vibes while we were in there. I kept, turning my back and looking behind me to make sure we weren't being chased or followed. But we were pretty much alone in there, and we explored it for a couple hours. And at one point, I decided to stop going forward because it just kind of got a little treacherous for me, and I don't really trust my balance, especially when I'm over water. And there was this really gross, rusty water that was there, and God knows what is in that water. So I decided to stay put where I was, and Urbex Offlimits continued on into the darkness, and he was gone for about 40 minutes. So I just kind of stood on this little platform for like 40 minutes waiting for him to come back. And at one point I was like, well, he probably fell and broke his legs, and now he's dead, and I can't find him because I don't know where he went. So definitely stick with your buddy is the one thing I'll say. Stick with your buddy so that they don't have to worry about you. But I mean, he had fun, and it was totally worth it. And I got to like sit in the silence of this abandoned place for a good 40 minutes. I turned my headlamp off for a few minutes and literally sat in darkness just to feel the darkness surround me. And it was super creepy, but I enjoyed every moment of it. And it was one of my favorite explorations to date. If you guys want to see the POV photography video from the abandoned military base, it is already out on the JustTheLetterK YouTube channel. So head over there, go check out my content, guys. And if you enjoyed this podcast, like I said at the beginning, please leave a rating and feedback. It helps me with what I'm doing as a podcast host. It helps me get feedback from you guys. And when people are looking for podcasts to listen to, they oftentimes read the ratings and feedback that people give on the podcast. So it really helps us grow. So if you guys could do that, it would be much appreciated. I will talk to you next Friday on another episode of No Tracers. Stay strong, keep enduring, go out, go explore, and remember, leave no trace.